Welcome to Lantern and Shroud, a podcast of ghost stories, folklore, and the things that haunt the spaces in between. I'm Natalie, and in each episode I'll guide you through these tales, while my husband Gav brings them to life through his artwork, available to watch while you listen on YouTube. Together, we don't just share the hauntings themselves, we also step back into the past, uncovering the history that shaped them, the lives once lived, the tragedies long buried, and the legends that still hide in forgotten places. So if you're ready, let me take you somewhere lost to time, a place with history buried in the soil, a story whispered down through generations, a haunting that never quite lets go. Some tales are true, some are twisted by the years, and some are still happening. So light the candles, draw the curtains, and listen closely, because you've just stepped into Lantern and Shroud. Muncaster Castle rises above the valley of the River Esk, its grey stone walls silhouetted against the brooding Cumbrian hills. To the visitor by day, it looks almost enchanting, surrounded by gardens and ancient chestnut trees. But when darkness falls, Muncaster becomes a fortress of shadows, a place where the past has not died and where the dead will not rest. Perched on the edge of the Lake District, Muncaster Castle has stood for over 800 years. Built in the mid-13th century, it became and still is the seat of the Pennington family, inherited from King John. The castle walls have seen war, witchcraft trials, murder, betrayal, and centuries of sorrow. The castle is so haunted that even its owners openly admit they are never truly alone within its halls. But what makes Muncaster so unsettling is not just its history of bloodshed and betrayal, it is the sense that the past never truly left. Every hallway, every garden, every chamber seems steeped in restless energy, and for centuries, Muncaster has been called one of the most haunted castles in all of Britain. The most famous ghost is Tom Skelton, better known as Tom Fool, the castle's 16th century sinister jester. Witty but cruel, Tom was said to play deadly tricks. There are tales of him standing on the bank of the River Esk, deliberately misdirecting travellers into deadly quicksand rather than the safe ford. One of the most notorious and dark tales involves a tragic execution. Hellwise Pennington, Sir Ferdinand Pennington's daughter, had a secret lover, a carpenter's son named Dick. He was deemed an unsuitable match, their love forbidden. Dick was reportedly lured to Muncaster, where he was plied with cider, then swiftly beheaded by Skelton while he slept. Skelton reportedly quipped, "I have hid Dick's head under a heap of shavings, and he will not find that so easily, when he awakes as he did my shillings." Rumours are that the sound of a body being dragged across stone floors can still occasionally be heard today. The castle's present owners believe that Tom still keeps a watchful eye on the castle and still gets up to mischief, playing pranks on staff and visitors. Cold hands tug at clothing, unseen laughter rings through corridors, and objects are moved or hidden. Guests often feel watched in the Great Hall, where his painted portrait still hangs. They say, if you stare too long into Tom Fool's eyes, you'll feel him staring back. One of the most haunted locations in Muncaster Castle is the atmospheric Tapestry Room. Guests staying in the room have been awoken in the night by rustling fabric, an invisible presence pressing down on them, or on the bed as if someone unseen has lain next to them. A chilling account reported by a visitor was when they were awoken from a restless sleep by cold fingers gently brushing across their cheek. The room is alive with strange phenomena, with those visiting or staying in the room reporting footsteps, sudden chills, turning door handles and moving doors, although no one is there. That very room was once the nursery of a young Margaret or Marjorie Pennington, who died within those walls centuries ago. Her ghostly sobs are heard coming from the window end of the room, and sometimes a lady can be heard softly singing or whispering prayers, comforting the sick child. Visitors report waking to see a shadow bending over them, its face blurred and indistinct, only to dissolve as they scream. Would you brave a stay in the Tapestry Room? A sad presence felt and seen in the gardens of the castle is that of the White Lady, also given the name the Muncaster Bogle. She is said to be the spirit of Mary Bragg, a young girl murdered on the road by the main gate in the early 1800s. Mary was a housekeeper in the village of Ravenglass and was very much in love with the footman at Muncaster. Unfortunately for Mary, so was one of the housemaids. Mary would regularly meet her footman late in the evening, but one night 2 men approached Mary, claiming her lover was seriously ill and she was to be at his bedside. Instead, the 2 men beat Mary to death on the roadside next to the castle, and she was thrown into the River Esk. Her restless spirit drifts through the gardens, still retracing her steps to meet her love, a pale figure gliding silently between the trees. Many have reported seeing her near the castle gates at dusk, fading into mists before their eyes. But the story of the ghostly troops at Muncaster Castle is less famous than the tales of Tom Fool or the Crying Child, but among locals it's one of the most awe-inspiring legends. In the turbulent years of the War of the Roses, after his defeat at the Battle of Hexham in May 1464, the dethroned Henry VI found himself in need of sanctuary. Local lore tells that he stumbled, exhausted and soaked at the doors of Ayrton Hall, only to be turned away. Henry pressed on, the rain beating down until he collapsed beneath an ancient oak tree. Some say it was there that the shepherds, alarmed by the gaunt shadow of a man muttering prayers and half curses, found him and led him through the mist to Muncaster Castle. That oak, known even today as the King's Oak, is whispered to be the place where the air still shifts with a shiver, as though the echo of his despair lingers in the roots. At Muncaster, Sir John Pennington offered the fugitive king refuge. In gratitude for his sanctuary, Henry gifted Pennington a Venetian glass bowl, the now legendary Luck of Muncaster, and left a solemn blessing. So long as this cup remains unbroken, so shall the Penningtons dwell in this place, unharmed. Yet some say it was not a blessing at all, but a curse born of desperation, for Henry's mind was already crumbling. He was a man driven to the edge of madness, and his words, uttered through fevered lips, may have bound the family to the castle as much as they protected it. Centuries later, the bowl still survives. Visitors stare at it, fragile yet unbroken, but curators admit the glass sometimes vibrates slightly, as if it hums with something restless inside. And Henry himself? Guests and staff have reported a gaunt figure in royal robes drifting through the castle corridors. His eyes are said to be wide and hollow, his lips moving silently in endless prayer. He lingers, most often near the chamber where he stayed. The air there is colder, the shadows longer. Some hear soft weeping in the night. Others swear that just before they sleep they hear a man whispering, "I am undone." The Muncaster Monument, an octagonal tower with spire, raised in later centuries to mark where Henry was found by shepherds, carries its own dread. On storm-tossed nights, locals say a cloaked figure can be seen pacing around it, raising his arms as though begging the heavens to restore his crown. Dogs refuse to approach, and those who do claim the stones themselves seem to bleed rainwater darker than the rest. Thus, Muncaster's story is not only of sanctuary and loyalty, it is also one of haunting grief. Henry VI, broken king, may have found a roof above his head within its walls, but he never found peace. And if the luck of Muncaster should ever shatter, some fear it will not only spell doom for the Penningtons, but also unleash Henry's spirit in full. No longer a sorrowful wanderer, but a raging monarch whose broken soul has waited centuries to be heard. Unlike Tom Fool, who is mischievous and unsettling, or the crying child who is tragic, the phantom soldiers are protective. Locals sometimes call them the Castle Guardians, and the Penningtons view their presence as a kind of blessing. On certain nights, as the mist rolls in from the River Esk, the battlements of Muncaster Castle come alive with shadows. At first, they seem like tricks of the eye, faint silhouettes etched against the moonlight, but watch a little longer and you'll see them clearly. Rows of soldiers, helmets glinting faintly, muskets and pikes gripped in spectral hands. They stand in silence, an army of the dead, keeping guard over the castle they swore to protect centuries ago. Some say they are the souls of men slain during the border wars, their blood spilled into the stone. Others whisper that they are Civil War loyalists, doomed to march forever for their king. Visitors walking the grounds have reported seeing silhouettes of helmeted men on the parapets, only for them to vanish when approached. Eyewitnesses have spoken of hearing the sound long before seeing them, the distant tramp of boots on stone, the faint roll of a war drum echoing through the valley. And then, suddenly the battlements are crowded with shadows, their heads turning in unison, watching, waiting. Folklore says the ghostly guardians are only seen during a crisis or great national danger. During the dark nights of the Second World War, villagers swore they saw them, ranks of ghostly men guarding the castle, their weapons raised. It is almost as if the castle's long history has imprinted an internal garrison on its stones, replaying whenever Muncaster needs its defenders. It is said that once you've looked into the eyes of the ghostly guards, you carry something of them with you. Some claim to hear marching footsteps following them for nights afterwards, or wait to find the sounds of drumbeat just outside their window. The castle locals have a saying: when the dead stand guard at Muncaster, beware, for trouble is close at hand.